Welcome to the Dad Show Podcast, a show all about impacting, empowering, inspiring, and uplifting information to become a better dad, husband, man, and mentor. And now, your host, Ryan Ladd.
Welcome to the Dad Show Podcast. How y'all doing?
Welcome back to the Dad Show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank y'all for being here, for watching and joining us. Today I've got a real treat in the studio with me, Mr. Brandon Janous, and I'm so happy that you're here, Brandon, and so excited and to hear your testimony, your story, and just what you got to offer us for us today, man, to help men be better dads, better husbands, and better Christian men in the home. So
thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here, man.
Heck yeah, this is gonna be awesome.
Heck yeah, man.
Like I said, y'all are in for a treat today. This is gonna be great. So I'd like for you just to take a second, open up, let our audience know who you are, a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll just move on from there.
Yeah, man. So like you said, Brandon Janous, Knoxville, Tennessee. I am a single dad of three, 10-year-old Macklin, 11-year-old girl Cooper, and then 13-year-old Hadley. So two girls and a boy. Became a single dad in 2020 when my wife passed away after a couple-year battle with breast cancer. So I didn't sign up for this. This isn't how I expected life to look.
Exactly.
You know, I think in life we're supposed to do it with a partner.
Yes,
you know, that's how it's supposed to look. And you know, unfortunately, over the last 4 years or so, I've kind of been doing it on my own with my community. To say I do it alone is not fair. But you know, the day to day is single dad life, man. And you know, I've embraced it the best I could. And it's been a series of struggles. And you know, I wake up each day and do the best I can. And but I'm so blessed to be surrounded by some awesome people that help me walk this walk.
Awesome, man. So we're going to get into your past, but let's go ahead and go into present day. Right now, you're a writer, you're a storyteller. What else do you do as well?
Yeah, man. So I wrote a book soon after my wife passed away. I put a book out into the world, and it was received well, which was great. But through that, I ended up starting a publication company to help other people write books. So many books don't get written because it's hard. It's a hard industry to get into.
Exactly.
If you don't have 1 million followers on TikTok, a traditional publisher doesn't want you. And so we created this company called Blue Hat Publishing to help people like me and you put our stories out into the world. And it's been so much dang fun just to see people's words come to life and help them do that. So that's kind of my focus as a profession. Entrepreneur. I've done a couple startups. I failed miserably in most of those. But more than anything, yeah, you know that,
I'm right
man.
there with you.
But more than anything, just being dad, man, that's my favorite job. That's, not because we're on the Dad Show podcast. It's just what I do, man. I tell my clients and I tell my partners, like at 3:00 every day I'm done.
Yeah.
And I talked about that. I don't, when the bus comes home, man, it's dad mode.
Yeah.
And I try to be present, and I fail often, but like I try to put the phone down. I try to close the computer and just be dad.
Yes, yeah.
And I think I've done okay at it. You know, there's days that I struggle, but it's funny how respectful people are of that, boundary, I don't take calls after 3.
Yeah.
So people don't call me, right? I don't do, client, interviews or whatever it may be after 3. I mean, of course there's an occasion where it might have to happen, but you set those boundaries and people are pretty respectful of them, especially when there's a reason like being dad.
Yes, exactly. And people want boundaries.
That's right, man.
Like in the world today, everybody runs wild and they think that's what they ought to do. But like my kids, like I have to set boundaries with them because they are more secure. They sleep better. They act better if they have those boundaries.
So
a lot of parents want to try and be friend. They want to try and, not, ruffle the feathers or anything of that nature. But, whenever you put your foot down and you set those boundaries, kids, mine do anyways. They act better and they're more, they like the more structure and they,
And there's a mutual respect there because, you know, we had Sunday night movie night last night. And electronics are gone.
Yeah.
So is mine though.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I'm not on mine. I'm not, you know, and so I can
man,
be.
that's so good.
I'm the adult, so I can be. There are some things I can do, but like, it's just, you know, let's just put them down. Let's put them away for 2 hours and let's watch a movie and let's be present. Let's be here. And so again, it's just, you know, walking the walk, you know, it's one thing to say it, but to do it with them, it goes a long way.
Yeah. And that means more to them whenever they see that as well. Like you told me to put my phone down. Why do you have yours in your hand?
Absolutely, man.
One of our things is at dinner time, there's no devices at the dinner table. Like,
for sure.
No TV on, no devices. Like, we're going to sit down and have, I'm a fireman, so I work a 24-hour shift. I'm going a few days a week. So I don't get that time every night to sit down and be with them. And, you know, so that's one thing that I instilled, you know, when the kids, even whenever me and my wife were kind of dating and, you know, doing everything, like, no devices at the table. I don't want to be that couple that's sitting at the restaurant. Man, you know, we sit down and immediately like we're texting each other or, you know, whatever, and not having conversation.
It matters,
now I get aggravated with my wife because she listens to everybody else's conversation.
Than she knows what's going on at every table.
Exactly.
You know, it's so good because I remember mom, you know, we grew up in a different age where we didn't have the devices, right? Like when we were kids, but I remember how important that family dinner time was to mom. And I got so annoyed. I always had to be home at this time and do dinner. I was so annoyed at the time, and looking back, it's like, man, that's so important. It's so good. And it does mold you into the person you become. And so to put those practices in place is so important. So good for y'all to do it too, man.
So I was at work whenever I first initially messaged you and, you know, trying to get in touch with you, and I was working out. And so whenever you hit me back with that message of, you know, because we were just going to get in contact, do a little 5-10 minute pre-call, and you hit me back and said, I'm spending time with my kids, my family, and we're out doing that stuff. And I was like, man, like that hit me hard because I was like, whenever I'm home, I try to do that.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to take that time away from somebody else. You know what I mean? So it really hit me, and it was a weight on my shoulders whenever I said that. So for one, I want to apologize, but number two, man, I mean, I admire that and respect that, and I think that's the greatest thing ever.
I appreciate that.
You know, for you to put your device down and say, I'm shutting off business mode and going into dad mode at 3 o'clock whenever the bus gets there, whenever your kids get home from school. Like, that's huge, man.
Well, thank you for saying that, man.
That's awesome. So I kind of want to switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about your childhood. Obviously, we're going to get into everything else in a little bit, but right now I want to just kind of hit on your childhood. Being a good dad now, was there any influence in your life early, a grandfather, your dad, that instilled in you to want to be that?
Yeah, man. So you should have my dad on this podcast over me for sure. My dad.
Well, let's do a duo one day. We'll have both of you on.
He's literally the best human you'll ever meet. And I mean this when I say I've never seen him raise his voice in my life.
Wow.
He's the most even-tempered, patient, calm, loving man. I remember one time him being mad at me. And it was the disappointment in him. It wasn't the anger. It was that I disappointed him that hurt so bad because I just respected him so much, and the way he loved my mom, the way he loved us, the way he loved his friends, the way he loved his coworkers, the way he loved his church family. He just, and still does. He just loves so well. Never seen him raise his voice. Never seen him fight with mom. With any of us kids. He had 3 kids and has 3 kids, and I've never seen him get mad, which is crazy.
Wow.
It's unrealistic, right? I mean, we were great kids, obviously, but
because we're on the dad show, you can tell the truth. Right?
Yeah, no, I know, but he just, I want to be more like him every single day.
So
to
much
this
grace.
day. Oh, dude, so much, and just the patience of, because I mean, kids are hard, man. We are hard, and
I know I was for sure.
And wives can be hard, and husbands can be hard, but just to watch this man walk in so much love and grace, man, it's just been awesome. Turns out his dad was the exact same way.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, his name's Bapu. He's actually 99, turns 100 on December 27th. Still with us.
That
lives
great.
over in Oak Ridge. He was the exact same way. So my dad had that model in Bapu. And I always say, I'm dating a girl right now, and I said, you literally got the 5th best Janous, man, because you have Bapu, my dad, my brother, and my son, and then there's me.
Wow.
You know, just loves so well. And I'd never seen Bapu in that place of anger or temper, or he just was calm and even, and people respected him so much for that. That it was just, I had literally the best influences I could ever have. And I model what I do after Dad, and I fail and I lose my patience. I don't have a temper. I don't yell. I just wasn't built that way.
Yeah.
But for sure, man, being a single dad or being not a single dad, patience runs thin, and when they're not listening or they're not moving or they're not doing, what you've asked, it's hard. But I do catch myself sometimes thinking, well, how would Dad have reacted in this situation?
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
So I was so blessed. I am so blessed to have a dad who's my best friend to this day, as my model. It's honestly unfair that I had it that good, because I know so many people don't. And, to see people come out of, whether it's an abusive father or it's just a mean father or an alcoholic father, whatever it is, to become great men, I had it easy.
Yes.
I literally had the best example in the entire world.
They probably didn't realize it at the time.
No,
just kind of took it for granted kind of deal. But
and you saw, other families that you'd be around and parents that would be fighting right in front of you and all the things. And I was like, man, something different over here. And, they would always say we were the Beaver family, Beaver Cleaver, whatever. Right. And so, and I believe that we had it so good when it came to just watching Mom and Dad love each other so well.
That's awesome. That's how so it's kind of almost polar opposites. Like my grandfather is just what you described. He's 93. We still have him with us today. He goes and works out 2 days a week, like just a statue in the community. Just like you said, so much patience, so much grace given. And then my dad, on the other hand, he wasn't abusive by any means, but, would raise his voice and, get mad and get angry. And me and him, for whatever reason, we was, like hot and cold water. Like we just did not mesh well together. And hearing that, like you had both of that aspects in your life. And I find myself today, like, I want to be my grandfather. I always say that if I'm half the man that my grandfather is, then I'll be a pretty decent guy.
Yeah.
But I find myself resorting back to my childhood of, if my son doesn't listen, then I'm going to raise my voice, and then I'm going to raise my voice some more. And, and just finding that middle road between the two to try and bridge the gap. But man, like if I had anything that I want to be like, it's like my grandfather, man.
We got to have my dad and your granddad on here, and there's your show right there, man.
Well, golly, I asked my grandfather yesterday, actually. I was like, Papa, because I call him Papa. Like, will you be on the dad show? Would you? He's like, I don't know. That generation, I don't know if I can do that. And I was like, all you got to do is sit there and have a conversation with him,
man.
And people would love it. So hopefully, maybe we can do that in the future.
I love it.
Moving on. Further in life, you met Rachel. Now you were living in Hawaii. Is that correct?
Yeah. Living in Hawaii. I met Rachel in college. Through I was a fantastic flag football player. That was we had this team in college.
Got the trophy?
We had this team in college. I was really fast. I never played tackle football. My dad was an incredible football player in high school and could have played pretty much anywhere, but I didn't go that route. I did other things, played golf, ran track, did things like that, but flag football became our thing. We ended up being really good in college, and we went to this national flag football tournament that we qualified for. And Rachel, it was in Lincoln, Nebraska of all places, and Rachel was a dancer at University of Nebraska. Some of my fraternity brothers were friends with her, went to high school with her, and so we ended up staying with her and her friends when we went there. Our crew of 8 guys or whatever. And I remember on the way there, my buddy Casey, he's like, "Hey, you're gonna like this Rachel girl. I'm just letting you know. You guys are gonna hit it off." And I was like, "Nah, I'm good. And he was right. The second we got there, I was like, "Man, there's something about her. That girl's cool." And I was in Columbia, Missouri. She's in Lincoln, Nebraska. You're in college. It just didn't make sense to date, but like there was just something about her, and we just became really good friends. We were each other's wedding date when we needed a date. We dated other people, but whenever we needed someone to show up for an event or a wedding or whatever it may be, we'd always call on each other. And I compared anyone I date to her for 10 years. I literally compared anyone I dated to Rachel. And they never were her. They dated great people, but there were, there's a difference in dating and marrying someone, right?
Exactly,
and like,
yeah.
who am I going to spend the rest of my life with and why? And I just compared everyone else. So she was this standard. She was on this pedestal, and we never tried dating. We just were always in different places. But I had this standard, which was great. Moved to Hawaii, and I remember thinking, all right, at this point, I'm 29 years old, and I'm like, I need to shoot my shot with this girl. And so I sent her an email, because that's what you did back in those days. And so I sent her an email, and, I poured my heart out, like, hey, like, over the last 10 years, I've had these feelings for you, and I've always thought maybe there was a thing here. And I was wondering if you'd come visit me on your spring break, because she was in nursing school at the time. And I poured my heart out. And I got like a 3-word response, but pretty much just said no. It's like, oh,
after this big long
thing, it's like, no. And we had this whole thing back and forth, but so she says no, and I sit on it for like 24 hours. I'm like, dang, man, that hurt. But I'm like, okay, that's God telling me this door's closed, which is fine. I think she was dating someone at the time. She says she wasn't. I think she was, and I get the last story because, and so she said. Anyway, so it goes for about 24 hours, and I'm trying to think how I'm even going to respond to this just rejection. But also, I was like, okay, God, cool. I prayed for this, and you gave me closure. And then about 24 hours later, she emails me back and says, actually, I've had a change of heart. I'm going to come. Wow. And but there's no expectations. We're just going to have a fun few days in Hawaii. And
exactly.
So I think it was she got a free trip to Hawaii. I don't think it had anything to do with me. But I got her there, and literally 24 hours in, we're like, we're going to get married. And
you just knew.
We just knew, man, because you know each other for 10 years. You know so much about them, and so
there's no getting comfortable. There's no, like, dude, where you from, or small talk of that nature.
You've done all that. You walked through some things with each other, and so I think it was 3 months later we were engaged, and then 3 months after that we were married. So it's kind of a quick thing, and then moved to Hawaii. She moved to Hawaii. We lived there for a little bit, and then ended up, over here. But it was I call it a 10-year chase, man, but I finally convinced her, because I moved to Hawaii, that she should come, and the rest is history. So
it's a fun chase, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. Heck yeah.
Over 10 years. What took you to Hawaii?
Golf. Yeah, I was in the golf world, and I had an opportunity to go run a resort out there. So I was a head golf professional out of the top 100 course out there, which was so dang cool. And so
yeah, that is awesome.
Woke up, one of my best buddies was with me there, so we'd go out there each morning, play 9 holes. We call it the emergency 9, just to make sure everything was good. And then our day would start, and we lived right there on the water, and it was really a cool experience.
That's so awesome.
It was great for our marriage. I mean, we had our first year out there, just me and her. I mean, there's no family out there. There's no, you have a couple friends, but it was relying on each other, and it was a simple life and super great. We had a great church, great community, but it was she and I, and it was special for us.
That's awesome. That's great. Are you from Knoxville?
No, man. So actually, another weird coincidence. We got married in 2010, March of 2010. On our way to our honeymoon, my grandmother passed away here. Rachel had never been here before, so we spent our honeymoon in Knoxville.
Oh, wow.
And Rachel fell in love with it. And she just graduated nursing school, couldn't get a job in Hawaii. So we lived there for a year, but she couldn't get a job there. I remember her just calling me one day and say, we need to leave. We need to get out of here. And we could go anywhere at that point.
Yeah.
And she said, I think we should go to Knoxville. And so we quit my job and came out here with nothing. And we had some family, my aunts and uncles, my grandfather lived out here. My parents didn't yet. They ended up following us out here after we got here. Then my sister followed us out here. And so everyone but my brother's up in Seattle, followed us here. So it kind of became home for us.
Is he going to be moving soon?
No, he was at Microsoft for many years, started an energy company out there, and it's Seattle's home for him. So we can't get him out here.
So y'all, you got married very quickly over that course of time. Now, what time period was it between? Actually, let's back up just a little bit. We actually have a connection that I noticed whenever I was doing a little bit of research for you, which is crazy. So I kind of want to hear this quick story. But my wife and I were in Visalis as well.
Way.
Yeah. And so I seen your all speech on YouTube at one of their events. And I was like, And I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, that video maybe was from like 2016,
14, 15, 16,
somewhere around there. So my daughter was diagnosed in 2015. And so we started kind of transitioning out at that point in time. But
I did not know that.
I didn't either until I was like, oh my gosh. Like, they were.
That's wild. Small
That
world.
is. So how did you get into ViSalus with?
Yeah, man. My buddy that I lived in Hawaii with, reached out to me one day and just said, hey, I've got this shake that tastes like cake, you want to lose 10 pounds or whatever it was at the time. And had no interest in building a business. I didn't know anything about network marketing or MLM or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I loved the shake. I needed something healthy to drink or eat after I worked out. And so I started taking it, and then I started telling people about it, and I'm like, oh, you can make money doing this. And so started building the team, and we ended up building a massive organization just through moms and dads. We weren't going after networkers. I didn't know anything about it. I was just like, hey, you guys should try this. It's kind of same message. And yeah, we built this incredible team and created this great community, which then allowed me a space to go train larger, different organizations, different companies on building teams and culture and all that. And so created this other platform for me outside of ViSalus to go, share on leadership and culture, team building, all the things that come with building a team. Yeah.
That's awesome, which is kind of in the aspect of put you in the position. I don't want to skip too far ahead, but whenever y'all traveled in an RV together, I assume that was setting you up for that portion as well. I want to honor Rachel for sure. So I definitely want to hit on her story. But my question initially was from the time y'all got married to the time she was diagnosed, what was that time period? Do you remember?
Yeah. So that was 2010 to 2017. So we had 7 years, three kids,
all right.
In that time. Actually, no, she got diagnosed in 18. Sorry. She got diagnosed in 18, April of 18. So about 8 years.
About 8 years before that. So you had 3 kids during this time period. How was marriage? How was being a dad prior to the diagnosis?
Sure, man. Well, I mean, ups and downs, right? She was the love of my life, and I chased her forever, and finally convinced her. And then you have kids, and you start to focus sometimes more on your kids than you do your wife, and you start focusing on work more than you do your wife. And so we definitely had our things pop up, and I thought providing was my number one thing. I had to be the provider. I had to hustle and provide, and I did, like I pat myself on the back, man. I worked hard. I worked all the time. We were doing well financially. But it turns out that wasn't what mattered most to Rachel, she couldn't care less. And the thing is, Rachel was the most, she did not need things. She did not care for things, right? She just needed love, and she needed family, and she was not superficial at all. She just didn't need things. And I don't know why I thought that I needed to get her all the things and the nicer car and the nicer house and all the stuff. And she called me out on that a few times, that I needed to be more present, and that being gone all the time wasn't acceptable, and that's not what she signed up for. And never to the point of I'm going to leave you. That was not a threat. It wasn't an ultimatum or anything like that. But I sucked, man. I mean, I'll be honest. I just wasn't there. And when I was there, I wasn't there. And found my pleasures elsewhere. I was killing it. I was on the stages. I was doing, I was a hero to so many people, but I was nothing at home, and I got caught in this trap until one day Rachel decided that she wasn't going to have it anymore, and pretty much did give me an ultimatum. Hey, we're going to come with you wherever you go. You can keep going. I'm not telling you can't go. You can keep going, but we're going to go with you. And then, as we talked about the other day, we packed up our family of 5 and moved into a 40-foot motorhome and hit the road, man.
That's so awesome. Everybody talks about doing that. Let's just sell the house. Let's do whatever and just go be together. And COVID had a lot to help with that, on teaching everybody, to stay together. Home. But yeah, man, that was that's huge in my aspect, because I'm the kind of the same way. Like, I want to grind. Like, I just want to keep going. Like, I feel like the more money that I make, the happier that my family will be, the happier that my kids will be, and life will just be so much easier when it's almost the exact opposite of that,
Bro, I tell you, dude.
People put so much emphasis on money and it's needed, 100%, but man, so from my aspect, and you can relate as well, I try to tell people, if you have healthy kids, if you're not dealing with something of that nature, you are so blessed.
Good, man.
You are so blessed, because I would lose everything and be homeless if I didn't have to worry about any medical stuff with my kids. Just to be able to be present with them, and yes, we have a great life. We enjoy, we make the best of everything that we're going through. And even whenever we go for a surgery or, checkups or anything, we travel to these centers of excellence, whether it be Cincinnati or Minnesota. And we make the best of these trips.
Sure.
But I would trade all of that, to not hear my kids be like, Daddy, I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't want a shot. I don't want to go through this surgery. And like we discussed off camera, like my daughter, whenever a surgery comes up and she knows it's coming up, she's so strong up until about 3 or 4 days before the surgery. And then she stops eating. Then, she acts completely different, stops sleeping. She has such PTSD from the medical journey. And man, that's what matters. Being present with your family, and and the world does it to us. Everything, social media makes it worse. The worldly aspect, you need this next shiny thing. You need all this money. You need to keep going. And man, look at what you are blessed with.
Dude, I agree. And I'm going to flip it back on you. I'm going to be host for a second. Okay. I have a question for you. So for me, it's I can't even fathom being a dad and not being able to fix it.
Yeah.
I know, even being a husband, I couldn't fix Rachel. I couldn't make her better. I'm a fixer. Yes. I want to fix it. And I can't even fathom being in your situation and not being able to fix this, not being able to tell your kid it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Not being how do you even communicate that? How do you walk through life knowing it's not up to you. You can't do anything to make it better.
It's hard. And this podcast isn't about me. It's about, but it's hard. 100%. But everybody's going to have a hard, no matter what it is, whether it's the loss of a wife, whether it's getting up at 2:00 in the morning and go pee and you stub your toe on the side of the bed. Everybody is going to have a hard. And it was so hard that my wife and I just turned to God. 100%. We were Christians. We got baptized early on in life and knew God, but we wasn't living for God at all. And even God was building us up for that. And this is a question I've got for you as well. But prior to us having Kennedy, prior to her diagnosis, God was building us up, putting us in a church, going to Bible studies, starting to do the correct things.
Yeah.
And so I was like a newborn baby deer trying to walk in this new walk with God. And I got close to a guy at work. And when Kennedy was diagnosed, I was really trying to just cling close to God.
Yeah.
And he's like, Ryan, I know you're trying to do the right thing. I know you're trying to do all that you need to, but there's going to come a day and a time that you're not going to be able to pray. You're not going to be able to think of a prayer, but just know that God understands your tears. And I was like, dude, you're crazy. 100%. No matter how hard I'm crying, I can always think of a prayer in my head. I can, I can think of anything. And man, it hit me. One day I was home by myself and I was weeping so hard that all I could do was hit my knees and throw my hands up to God. And man, I tell you, and I get chills right now thinking about it. When I threw my hands up to God, he literally reached down and picked that weight off of me. Yeah. And I was able to stand up, clear my head, and continue going like nothing had ever happened. But when I stood up, I continue to throw my hands up to God. But I didn't do it in this aspect. I did it in this aspect. And I said, God, take her. She is yours first. I'm just her earthly father.
Amen.
I cannot do this, but you can.
Yeah.
Whether you heal her here on earth or you heal her in heaven with you, I cannot do this. And
wow.
And so when you ask the question, how did I manage it and go through it? That's how
You gave it to him.
I gave it to him.
Yeah, man.
100%. And, you know, Allie says that I was her rock. My wife says that I was her rock through the whole thing, and that anytime she got down, but man, we were both like, God just created us both. Like whenever I'd get down, she'd be my rock. But that was how I was able to do that and I'd done the same thing with Lincoln from, whenever Lincoln was diagnosed, I gave him to God as well. And I know it sounds cliche, it sounds silly, but literally taking the motion and handing it to God, man, it was so powerful. And so anybody that calls and asks me, like, you know, what do I do in this situation, man? How do I manage this? Whatever medical diagnosis, I'm like, hand it to God. And it sounds silly. Take your hands and make that motion. So man, that's appreciate you asking that question.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
No,
I think
thank you.
In a similar place, you know, with Rachel not being able to fix it. I remember a friend of mine telling me, you know, this surprised you and it surprised her family and it surprised all her friends. It didn't surprise our Father. Yeah, None of this is a surprise to him. Yeah. You know, like he's got this.
Yes.
And you can't fix it. And it's okay to let that go, you know, because this is not a surprise. And none of this that's happening around us is a surprise to him. And that was nice for me to hear. I needed to hear, like, yeah, man, this wasn't part of my plan.
Yes.
But it was his.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't like, oops, I forgot that page.
Exactly,
you know,
right? And that, like, anything that happens now, it's like, oh, that's part of it, man.
Yes.
You know?
100%. So spoiler alert, Rachel was diagnosed with cancer. And you went through the medical journey with her. Do you feel there was any time, just like I expressed, God building us up, sending us, you know, getting us in church, was there a time now that you can look back through everything and see, yes, God, you were building me up at that point in time?
Yeah, man. 100,000s of times, but man, living in the RV alone was a big. So before Rachel got diagnosed, about a year after we finished our RV journey, we did the year in the RV.
Okay.
Which taught me presence. It taught me perspective. It taught me how to be a better dad, a better husband, a better human. Because it was the five of you doing life together in 40 feet. There was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to hide. And you clung to each other physically, emotionally. Like, we had a couple times where we had tornadoes coming through and we were in this RV, and like, you're literally clinging to one another. and you know, God, again, it wasn't a surprise to him what was the next season was about to look like.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so I went from this completely absent human, you know, to anyone that really mattered, to just showing up and learning through this 40 feet of living how to be better, you know, and having my kids be able to call me out and my wife be able to call me out, and just learning to walk in just full presence, right? And so little did I know how bad I would need that come the next season when Rachel got sick, and you know, for 2 years we battled, and then she ended up passing away. But I am so grateful to be able to have just had that year of just us. Yeah. Because we don't get that. We're distracted by all the things. And I had a year of undistraction, really, is what it came down to. And it taught me just so much about what mattered and how to live in presence. Yeah.
And that's part of, I know from our journey, being in the hospital together, like it's almost the same aspect. You're in this 15 by 15 room, and you don't have a choice but to be present with each other and be there. And, you know, whenever you're at that point in your life, whenever you're in the hospital, like with our kids, we had we were told there's only a 60% chance that they'll make it through transplant. So, that was always kind of ticking in the back of our head. And I'm sure with a cancer diagnosis, it's not at the forefront, but that's kind of just a back thought, if you will, say that. But, we were just like, we're going to spend this time together and we're going to be present with each other. And still, even though I still caught myself being on my phone, being, watching the TV, I still felt myself being distracted. Yeah. And my daughter is laying there with, almost lifeless because of the chemo and everything else that she had to go through at a year old. Like, man, like I want to knock myself out sometimes. Like, don't be stupid. Like, be present, literally. Quit being so selfish that you want to get on social media or that you want to, and the devil, I say it's me. The devil is so good at deceiving. Sure. And, he's not going to show up in a big black shadow with red horns and a big pitchfork. Like, he shows up in the smallest ways and then just continues to drag us away and get us distracted. And man, that's so huge of just being present and spending that quality time together. So I recommend everybody go on an RV trip. Yeah,
hey man, listen. The problem is it's not realistic for everybody and that's the thing. It's like, man, it's kind of unrealistic what we did, I was that bad. I needed that, right? But one of Rachel's things I love so much that she would say, I hated when she said it to me, but I love it now, was I need you here with your whole face. I need you to listen with your whole face because we're so here.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And the kids need to see your eyes. They need to see your whole face. Yeah. I need to see your whole face. And so now that's something I've kind of taken with me. Listen with your whole face.
Yes.
Because we are a culture that's down, man. I mean, you walk into Starbucks and everybody's down. You look, I was in an airport the other day and everybody's down. Like nobody is looking up. Nobody's listening with their whole face. And
that's one thing I try to do. Like when I go into a restaurant, and it's kind of funny to me in a way, like when I go to a restaurant and I'm waiting on to-go order or something like that, and you're in the little area that's, everybody's waiting for to go, and everybody is right here in their phone, and I just kind of I laugh at it. Yeah. I keep mine in my pocket, and I'm just like people.
And you're the weird
it.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the weird guy? That's not looking at his
phone. Dead,
yeah,
or
exactly.
His
phone
car?
Must be dead. That's right. That's exactly right. So again, I mean, it's hard, man. It's hard to not be distracted.
It is.
I agree. But, especially with our children, man, they are watching every single thing we do, good, bad, and ugly. And they're gonna repeat our language. They're gonna repeat our actions. They're gonna repeat everything that we do. Yeah. And they want to dress like us, look like us, act like us, talk like us. And we are the example they see the most. Exactly. And we get to decide what we want that to look like. And, I can't blame my kids if they want to be on theirs if I'm on mine all the time. I can't blame it's just... we have a big role as being a dad or a mom, and I just pray every day that I can show up and not suck too bad that day, because we're gonna fail, we're gonna stumble, but I want my kids to look back and be like, man, Dad was here.
But that's the joy of being a parent too. And even a husband or a wife, like, you're going to fail.
Oh, for sure, man.
The joy is learning from that and changing it and trying to be better. And the thing is, man,
kids give so much grace.
Yes.
Dude, kids they're the most forgiving, and and I'm finding myself often just saying, man, I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I didn't show up. I'm sorry I didn't pay attention. I'm sorry, whatever those, and they are so quick to forgive and on to the next thing and on to the next thing. But also we need to make sure we are showing up and apologizing and showing gratitude and doing these things that we want our kids to do as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. When y'all were in the hospital and, Rachel was obviously going through her stuff, but your kids were there. Yeah. How did you feel? Because I was able to be mostly present with until Lincoln's diagnosis, and I had to kind of be torn between the two. But how did you feel as far as taking care of Rachel and, but also needing to be the parent, like, that?
Man, that's a great question. So we spent the last 39 nights of Rachel's life in the hospital. So we checked in not knowing we were checking in for good. The cancer, she started out with breast cancer. She had beat it about 6 months later. It came back in her spine. She had a backache one night, told me it was back. I said, I said, we are old. My back hurts too. That's not what it is. And it sure enough was, and it spread into her back and then eventually spread into her brain. Christmas Eve, 2019. We were at the mall. We always go see Santa on Christmas Eve, which I don't quite understand, but that's a tradition that my sister and Rachel put into place with all the kids. And Rachel passed out at the mall that night, and we went. So an ambulance came, took her to the hospital Christmas Eve night, and that's when we had found out that it had spread into her brain. Yeah. And at that point, it's not going to be good. Yeah. And I remember the doctor coming in and they gave her they did some blood work and ended up giving her some blood so she could stay on her feet. And I remember the doctor coming in and saying, hey, we don't really need to talk about this today. Y'all need to be where you need to be. You need to get home. Knowing this was going to be our last Christmas. Yeah. And wow. I remember.
Had you been told that?
No,
or
this was the first time it kind of became a reality. We knew it was in her spine. We knew it wasn't good. Yeah. This was the time, like, I knew this was it. Yeah. Like, we had one more Christmas. And watching her, I remember that Christmas morning, watching her watch the kids. That's all I did. I just watched her watch the kids. And with so much joy, so much happiness, so much love. But I don't remember anything the kids got that year. I don't remember putting the stuff together. I just remember watching her watch them and knowing that was it. Yeah. And then I think it was January 17th. She had a seizure. She was getting radiation of her brain, and she had a seizure. So we ended up in the hospital, and then she seized all that night. And I'd never seen a seizure before. Yeah. And to see this on your wife, and you're like, I don't even know what to do with this. Yeah. Like, are we dying? Like, what is, and she kept coming in and out of it and in and out of it. And we said bye that night because we thought we were going to lose her. Everybody flew in. She made it through that night. Had seizures again all the next day. Had one that lasted way too long. And I remember the doctor saying, hey, I can make these stop, but she may not come back. And having to make that decision, and I'm seeking counsel from those I love. And I mean, the seizure had gone on for like 20 minutes, and wow. He's like, I can make this stop. But if she does come back, she's not going to be the same. But I mean, we just wanted to stop.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't want to see her.
Didn't want to see her, and so he did, and he shot her up with whatever he shot her up with, and hours and hours and hours. Like, we weren't sure, what this was going to look like. Everybody was in there praying over her and just loving on her and saying bye. And man, in true Rachel fashion, dude, like, I mean, a few hours after she got this shot, she just pops up and says, man, I got to pee. We're like, what in the heck? We're all looking around like we did not think you were ever going to come back. Yeah. And sure enough, she lives another 38 days, wow. And like, and
tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor, man.
I mean, bro, like, we are all like, what in the heck just happened? Like, everyone's crying. Everyone's like, dude, she's dead. Like, she's not coming. Pops up and I got to go pee. And she did. And the Lord wasn't ready for her yet because she still had work to do here, even in the hospital. And so for 39 nights, 38 days, people came and visited from all over the country. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of visitors came to say bye and to just grieve. But it was so cool. I had this front row seat to watching Rachel minister to people. Wow. They'd come in, people that were atheists came to know Jesus. People that hadn't had a relationship with him in years became closer to him. Everybody that walked in that room became ministered to. It became this incredible, like, sanctuary. Room 444 became this sanctuary where Rachel would say, she's like, I know I'm dying. All I have left to give is Jesus. Wow. So that's what I'm going to do. And, that's no different than me and you. We're dying too. Exactly. Just not maybe as quick. And that's what we should be given. And to watch her selflessly give, everyone left that room better, knowing Jesus more. Because Rachel's biggest fear, she had two fears in dying, is that we wouldn't be okay without her, and that people would turn from Jesus because she didn't get healed.
Wow.
And neither of those have happened. We've had hard days, but we're okay.
Yeah.
We're doing it, right?
Yes,
you know, and her story continues to lead people to him. And so being able to, I didn't answer your question. Sorry, I got sidetracked.
No,
but
you're
being
good.
able
You're
to
good.
be in that room, which I didn't leave. I would go home and shower every once in a while. So I'd see the kids. My in-laws were there with the kids. So I wasn't dad. And that was hard.
Yeah.
Like that was really hard for me because I remember just wanting to be dad.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to be dad again.
Exactly.
Because kids would come up every day and spend time with us or whatever, but they were in school and they were doing life. And remember the hardest conversation I had to have, because Rachel's still with it at this time, and she said, "You need to tell the kids I'm not coming home."
Wow.
We had made the decision. The doctors had stopped treatment. Rachel would kind of be in and out of consciousness at times, and every morning she'd wake up and say, "What's the plan today? What's the plan today?" And I was like, "Are you good? Are you comfortable?" I was like, "I'm good. I'm comfortable." Then that's good. That's the plan. We're going to keep you comfortable. That's what we're going to do every day. What's the plan today? We're just going to keep you comfortable. But she knew, she was in the medical field, and she's like, I'm not coming home.
Yeah.
And barring a miracle, which we continue to pray for, and it could have happened, and we believed it could happen till the last day.
With her waking up, and I don't mean to cut you off at all, with her waking up every day and asking, "What's the plan?"
Yeah.
Like, man, I put myself in that position. I'm like, okay, God, are you trying to tell me something? Do we need to continue on? Because you are always wanting that miracle to happen, and I'm for 100% in this aspect. But man, I put myself in that position. I'm like, I'd be thinking in the back of my head, like, okay, maybe we do need. And
I did, man. I did. I actually, gosh, a year after she died, 2 years after she died, I finally came to the conclusion that I couldn't fix this.
Yeah.
Right. We sought all the help we could. We went to the best doctors we could. We spent all the money we could. Like we spent it all. We had a ton of debt.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it, and I'd do it all over again. Yeah. But this didn't surprise him. This wasn't something I could fix. Yeah. No matter what we did, the Lord had his plan, and this was part of it. And Rachel always said that, before she ever got diagnosed, she thought she would one day die from cancer, and that her purpose would be revealed through that. And it bothered me so much that she would talk stupid talk like that until it became true. Yeah. And
do you believe that was manifested by any chance?
Man, gosh, that's a good question. It's a great question.
I don't get me wrong, 110% God's plan. Yeah. No deviation from that.
That's a good question. I don't know that I've ever sat with that. She probably would have said it is, or it was. Man, that's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Because I truly believe, and don't worry about going off on tangents and every, different pathways on this podcast, because we do it quite often. But I truly believe that if a person has cancer and you don't tell them, I believe mentally they end up living longer.
Sure. Isn't that the truth?
Or not just cancer, but some type of medical diagnosis that is considered terminal.
Sure.
As opposed to telling a person, you've got 6 months. I'm in the medical field. I've seen it tons of times that you tell a person, for the most part, you've got 90 days, you've got 6 months. At that time frame, they're gone.
They give up. And, so many. Yeah.
And it's so mental.
Yeah, bro. I completely agree with that.
And I don't mean to be disrespectful with the manifestation, but like if somebody believes that, then that's more than likely it's going to happen.
Sure. That is so true. I've never thought through that. She knew that her purpose would be revealed through dying.
Yeah.
But
it's so powerful that she said that her testimony would be revealed,
absolutely, man.
And growing God's kingdom would be through that.
Through dying, and still to this day, like I said, it still does. It still leads people to the Lord.
Yes.
I go back to the story of having to tell my children that mommy wasn't coming home. And that was Rachel saying, she's like, that was the hardest conversation I had in that hospital. That was harder than telling the doctor to shoot her up, to make her, whatever. It was having to sit with my kids in the lobby of the hospital and tell them mommy wasn't going to come home. but she was going to go home to heaven.
Yeah.
Right. But when mommy went home to heaven, daddy got to come home.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I got to come be with y'all again, and just having my 3 little ones just bawling, dude. Like I will never forget having to watch them just, because we never, whispered around them.
Yeah.
We said it wasn't good. We said things were not great. Like we would mention but to be able to just definitively almost say like, mommy's not coming home.
Yeah. That's,
she's going to go be with Jesus.
I respect, and I've heard you on other podcasts and through your other stories that you did have the hard conversations with your kids. You didn't hide it from them.
Sure, man.
And that's one thing that we started out with Kennedy and Lincoln. Like if we're going for appointments and we knew that they were going to have a blood draw, we would be like, it may or may not happen today, because they don't like an ouchie. They don't like a shot. And we learned that it was better off to be 100% transparent with them and say,
yeah, man,
it's going to hurt for a second. Like, yes, we are having a blood draw today. You're going to have a shot.
Instead of the uncertainty in that.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of hitting them with
man. I just didn't want to whisper. I didn't want my kids to not feel like they were involved in it. I didn't want them to turn into teenagers and not trust me because I was whispering. And so there's all these things that I'm like, man, let's just have the hard conversations, And so we let them in. And so I told him, I said, mommy's going to go home to heaven and daddy will come home. I don't know when that's going to be or whatever. And we had that conversation. And the night that Rachel passed, I remember going home and the kids knowing there wasn't even a conversation to be had. Like all the kids were sleeping. I went in and kissed them and mommy went home.
They knew.
Mommy went home. That's what happened. They said, mommy went home. Mommy went home. And you're home, daddy. You're home. And we all went down into my room and had a slumber party for the next, 3 years in my room, which we're just getting over, which is great. But yeah, it was a super surreal moment that I got to be dad again.
Yeah.
I got to come home. And I remember my pastor about 3 days before Rachel died, he could tell where we were getting. He'd seen this 100 times, right? I'd never experienced death that close, where I'm watching.
Yeah.
And he knew it was getting close. And he said, hey man, I just need you to know it's okay to be relieved.
Wow.
When she goes. I was like, man, are you allowed to say that? I'm still praying for a miracle, right? Like I'm still, and it's okay to be relieved. And I remember when she died, man, I was so relieved. Wow. There was no more pain. There was no more hurt. There was no more uncertainty. There were no more appointments. There was no more, and I got to be dad.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to go figure out what this looks like now, and like she went home, she won and cancer was beat that day.
Amen.
But I was so relieved, man, because it was so much to take on and try to balance to your original question, because I wasn't able to be dad, and I'm trying to be the supportive spouse, and I'm trying to navigate all these things and make these decisions. And it was just like this huge burden. It's like, not that her being here was a burden, but like just to breathe.
Exactly. Yeah. And know that she's in the hands of Jesus
in the hands,
too.
Man. Yeah. She's good.
I mean, that's like I said, I gave Kennedy and Lincoln both to God. And
yeah, man. So
to know that she is fully in his arms and taken care of. And like you said, no more anything else.
Yeah, man.
That's huge. And I go back to what you said in the hospital when she knew that she was, passing away and the end was coming, that she said, I have nothing else to give but Jesus. And you say that we're dying.
Yeah, man.
And we need to have childlike faith. My kids give me so much inspiration whenever it comes to telling people about Jesus. They're both, thank the good Lord, they're both saved and they both been baptized. And like us as adults, or just being humans, like we want to pull away from telling people about Jesus. Like we almost shy about it, like if it comes up in conversation, that's great, but I don't want to push it on you. And man, my kids are, they'll invite people to church that we don't even know. They'll saying there's certain things that I've heard, like one of my friends just playing around at dinner or something, be like, man, nobody loves me. And, I remember Lincoln popping up, Jesus does. Jesus loves you, and so that's so powerful that her saying, I don't have anything else to give but Jesus. And it just puts me in the
that's enough.
mind frame.
That's enough. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so good. So that night, man, that you went home and, you know, that your kids just knew you all piled up in the bed together and had a slumber party. Like, how was it knowing that you could just, I got two parts to this. How was it, like, you're like, I'm able to be a dad again. Like, I'm able to 100% be present again with my kids and be dad. But the second question is, how did it feel realizing that you was going to do it alone?
Man, that's such a good question. And I think I shared it in the book, but that first night, so we all pile up, like you said, we pile up in my bed. All the kids come downstairs, you know, we're all together again. I mean, I'm like, man, this is it. This is what it looks like now. In the middle of the night, 3, 4 a.m., Hadley wakes up and just projectile vomits all over the bed. Out of nowhere. Wasn't sick, wasn't feeling like,
welcome to being a dad again,
bro. And I don't do vomit. Rachel did vomit. That was her thing. Rachel was a nurse. She handled puke. When I see puke, I puke. Like, that's my thing. So I'm sitting here like, what in the heck is he, like, exorcist style all over. I'm plugging my nose, dry heaving, like trying to clean it up, throwing her in the shower. The other two are like, oh my gosh, you know, so I'm setting up pallets on the floor. And I remember sitting in the bathroom, like, you know, half naked, because I got all over me too, thinking, Rachel, you son of a gun. Give me a day. Give me 24 hours to figure this out. But also it's like, okay, like, this is it.
Let's go.
I got to clean up the puke now. Yeah. I got to figure it out. And
it's game time.
It's game time. And then, like, literally a week later, they both have head lice. Then a week after that, you know, COVID hits. And I'm like, Rachel, you did not prepare me for this.
Wow.
You prepared me for a lot, but you didn't prepare me for this. But it is. You figure it out. Like, I could have done the puke, you know, during our marriage, but I didn't. Rachel did it. She hopped up and did those things, right? Like, I didn't realize I even could. I physically could until you have to do it. And you just figure it out. Yeah. And it may not look as pretty. I'm dry heaving. I know Hadley feels bad, and like, it's the whole thing, but like,
it's where you wish you had a camera on the wall and just catch the whole
that whole thing. Right? I wish we could have videoed that. But we figured it out, you know. And Rachel was so good. I mean, there's some certain things she couldn't see, like that night and COVID and things that were coming, but she was so good at putting people in our lives that were going to take care of things that I didn't know how to take care of. Yeah. She had girls' hair appointments set up already, and she had one of our friends, Ashley, who was set to take them to their hair appointments and make sure their hair was always taken care of. To this day, there's still people that are making sure, like, the things that I just didn't pay attention to, I just wouldn't have got their hair cut.
Yeah,
They're supposed to be long, right?
You almost take it for granted what your significant other's doing.
That's the thing, and that's what it comes down to. I would challenge all men to be a noticer and, like, look around and see what your person does on a daily basis, man. The house don't clean itself. The laundry doesn't do itself. And I'm not saying that's what women do, but that's what Rachel did. All the mom, like, all these things, right? Like, the lunches don't just get made.
Exactly.
You know, the thing, you know, or on the other side of it, if you're the one paying the bills and you're not there anymore, the bills don't just get paid. Like, all these things, right? Like, I had no idea until she was gone, all the things that were being done that I just thought were done. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, I look around and see the things that your person does, notice them and be grateful for them, because until you got to clean up the puke yourself, you know, or until you got to make the lunches yourself, or until you got to do the carpool yourself, you don't realize, man, how much your partner brings to the table.
Does, yeah.
Yeah. You take it for granted.
Yeah.
Take it for granted. And so, anyway, I was thrust into it, but Rachel did such a good job preparing. You know, this wasn't a sudden death. We had time to prepare for a lot of things, and Rachel made sure, again, that we were okay and that people were led to him.
That's so amazing. I think about the story of you saying you had a Super Bowl party right there
man.
in the hospital.
Yeah, dude. So Rachel's a big Chiefs fan. Grew up in Kansas City. Had never seen the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. And we had a party, dude. We had about 50 people in this room. They gave her a bigger room because they knew she was going to be there a while, so it wheeled us into a bigger room. We had this nice room that I stayed in with her every night, and I mean, we did have alcohol in the hospital that night. My brother rolled in a little keg, and people just ignored what we were doing in that room, because what happened in Rachel's room was fine. And so we had a projection screen. Everybody was dressed in Chiefs gear. Even if you hated the Chiefs, you were rooting for the Chiefs. Like all over the world, people were rooting for the Chiefs that night. A couple of the players actually sent her videos saying, "Hey, we're praying for you. We're thinking of you. We're going to go out there and try to win this thing for you." And it was so cool. I think God was a Chiefs fan that night, because they were losing pretty big, and it's like, man, is this how it's going to end? And they ended up coming back and winning, and Rachel got to celebrate that. And with again, there's a picture I think on my social of 50 people in that room just cheering on the Chiefs with her, which the hospital, that doesn't happen in the hospital very often. And so it was the rules were ignored that day for sure.
That's awesome.
Man.
That's great, and that's needed. Little stuff like that just means the world to somebody going through
for sure.
Of that
for
nature.
Sure.
So in my life, prior to my kids being diagnosed with their rare disease, there was two local families that their kids had been hit in a car by a train, and a few had passed away. And really long story short, it's two local pastors that both of their kids were the ones in the car running together. Two of them lost their lives, two of them lived. So watching them go through that, cling to God, stay close to God, stay true to God, through that, where they could easily at any point in time turned and started hating God, turned whatever. But watching them go through that, I was like, if there's ever a tragedy in my life, that's how I want to go through it. So is there any story that you can remember, or was there any person that you've seen go through something hard prior to this? And where I'm getting at with this, I just didn't know if God may have let you see this, had a vision of it, or anything to help prepare you for what Rachel was about to go through and what you're about to endure.
I didn't know cancer until Rachel. We weren't affected by that, right? I didn't know kids lost their moms. I in my life, I've never, I didn't have my elementary friends who lost their mom to cancer. And then you become a part of this community, and everybody's lost their some person, right? Macklin's little birthday party the other day, three of the kids there lost their mom or dad. And it's like, these are 10-year-old, 9-year-old. I can't even fathom, because when I was growing up, that didn't happen. And maybe it did, but we were guarded from it, right? Or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but, and so I don't know that I had that person or that story. And I'll tell you, I was mad at God, bro.
Wow.
I was mad. I was mad at God when it came back.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Because I remember the first time we got it, we're like, why not us?
Yeah.
We have good insurance. We have things you don't think about at the time. We have the means. We have you, God. We have a community, right? Why not us? We got this. I remember when it came back, I was so mad, man. I'm like, why? Why are you doing this to her?
Yeah.
Take me.
Yeah,
don't do this to her.
Yeah.
Don't make her walk through this again. And I remember being angry and almost cursing at God for allowing this to happen again, you know? But then there's Rachel. She's like, no, this is it. This is part of what I'm supposed to be here to do.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have impact. We're gonna share stories, and we're gonna lead people to Him through this. And you got to be with me on this, And so I guess if it'd be anyone, it'd be Rachel. Just watching the way that she handled, knowing you're gonna die. Never was angry with God. Never questioned what was happening. Never was always so focused on the fact that she was dying, and she needed to give everybody that she could more of Him.
Yeah.
And that's where I drew more faith from, more belief from, more strength from, watching her, because I don't know that I would have been that way.
Yeah.
I would think I would have been more woe is me.
And that's kind of, so you saying that you was good, not good, but you went through it initially, never questioned, never getting, hateful or anything.
It happens to how many % of people, right? It just happens, right? And so why not us?
Yeah. And so whenever it came back, you got angry. That's kind of the same way I was with Lincoln.
Yeah.
We just went through it with Kennedy, and we stayed close to you, God. We stayed true to you.
Sure.
Why is this happening again? And then I was immediately put back into my place, that it's all in his plan.
Sure.
Like there's no mistakes with that, you know?
Didn't surprise him.
And, you know, and my wife had a harder time with it. And that's where she says I was the rock. Like, she's like, I don't know how in the world we're going to, because she had a lot of PTSD from going through everything with our daughter and everything they'd been through. And she's like, I don't know how I'm going to walk with my son back into that hospital again and go through what we just went through. Lincoln wasn't planned. Lincoln was a blessing for sure. And so, you know, like whenever we found out we were pregnant, or she was pregnant with Lincoln, like, you know, like we fasted, we did certain things, you know, to try and stay close. And, you know, even with that, like right now we could be sitting here saying we did all the right things.
Sure.
Lord, why do you know, and be hateful and turn away. But, you know, immediately, like I said, we turn back to, because there's so much strength that comes from turning to him.
Oh man, isn't that the truth?
Like you think that you can do it yourself. You think that I've got this, and you know, most people get through it okay.
Yeah.
And it's very ugly, but the ones that don't turn to him,
bro, isn't that the truth?
Like, man? And when you turn to him and feel the power, like we were in Cincinnati, Ohio, and even whenever now we go to our treatments in Minneapolis, Minnesota, hundreds of miles away,
sure,
I can feel the power of prayer at those places.
Man, that's so good. I remember feeling guilty when we were in the hospital because all the nurses wanted Rachel. All the doctors wanted Rachel. Like they would come in, who's got her today? Who's got her today? And everybody knew who her was. Yeah. Because the presence of the Lord was in that room. Amen. And I remember feeling sad because why wasn't it everywhere? Yeah. Why just that room? Yeah. You know, why? And a lot of it was just Rachel and the story she was sharing with anyone that would walk in. But you had doctors sneaking her in things she wasn't supposed to be eating. You had them coming in and serenading her on their day off. All the nurses became her best friends. I mean, a couple of them got tattoos for Rachel. They only knew her for 39 days. Yeah. Like there was the impact that she had because the Lord was in that room, you know. And I look and I thought, man, no one cares who's in 443 or 442. It's like, who's in 444? And we're going to come in here on our days off and we're going to spend time with this person. We're going to be ministered to by this person. And I'm thinking, man, that's so sad. I agree that 443 and 445 don't have that, you know, or aren't feeling that. And,
man, that's so good,
dude. But so good. To be able to be able to have a front row seat to just watching that, man, was just so dang cool.
So how did watching that build you up to where you are? I don't want to fast forward, but while we're on this topic, how did watching that whole thing unfold make you the man where you are today?
Man, Rachel, when you lose your person, you know, whether child, spouse, best friend, perspective completely shifts. The things that once mattered so much, you don't lose a ton of sleep over. Yeah. You know, when for 2 years, I mean, we had a break there, but for 2 years, when the only thing you're trying to figure out is how we're going to survive. Yeah. You know, how, you know, you walk through it, right? Every day, how we're going to survive. What's the right treatment? Who's the doctor we should visit? No amount of money mattered at that point, right? Like you're just going to do whatever you can to make this person live another day. Yeah. Man, you get to the other side of it when maybe it doesn't work, and it's hard to stress about much. Yeah. You know, like when you're like 2 years was focused on just living. I agree. It's hard to care about my golf score. Yeah. I just don't care. and it shows. It's bad, you know, but like I don't care about the football game. Yeah. You know, like I used to care a lot about the dang football game. I'm not a Tennessee fan. I went to Mizzou, but anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Now we're going to kick you out here. Yeah. But like, I mean, you see it in this community, especially like, man, like people are affected when Tennessee loses. The economy is affected. Like it's a whole thing, right? In any SEC town, like that's how it is. But like, so I don't care. Like I love watching. I'm entertained, but like it's not life or death, man. You know? And nothing is until it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's true.
Nothing is until it is.
That's so huge. That stuff, like you figure out what matters, what truly matters.
That's it, man. And I've done it, bro. I've done it far from perfectly. I have failed over and over. I've failed some people. I've failed some friends. I've failed some business associates. I have failed. But I think I've done it in a loving way. Yeah. You know, I'll admit failure. I'll admit when I suck. I'll admit when I fall. I'll admit when I need to be better. But I can't. It's almost to some in a dating relationship I've had in the past. Like it's like, do you not care about these things? Yeah. Or you don't care enough about certain things. You're right, because it doesn't matter. Yeah. It just doesn't, like it does. None of this matters, right? You know, and
Rachel was already living that.
That's
you know,
like that's my thing.
You were
man. Like,
you were on the grind. You were going, and she didn't care about that stuff.
About that stuff, man.
She wanted the presence of her husband and the father
life's
of
short,
children.
Bro. Life is so short.
Yes, it is.
You know, one of her big things: do more of the things you love with the people you love. Do more of the things you love with the people you love.
That's huge.
Because life is so dang short.
Yes.
And you're going to blink and it's going to be over. And now going back to what we talked about earlier, like now I'm in this community of loss, you know, and I know you have a community of like every day you're getting connected with a new person that lost somebody. Yes. You know, and doesn't think there's light at the end of the tunnel and doesn't think there's joy on the other side, you know, and Rachel assured me there's joy on the other side. Rachel would be so disappointed if I wasn't. Yeah. You know, living and loving and having fun and you know, all she wanted for us is just to be happy and just to be okay and just to thrive and not to forget about her. She didn't want to be forgettable, and she's not, but she sure just wanted us to be okay, and we are.
So is that one of the, I guess, the biggest takeaways for you now today with your kids, like the little stuff that you used to fret over, the dirty room, the laundry not being picked up and everything. Like I assume that that's pretty huge in your life right now.
Yeah. And you still get annoyed. You still got to catch yourself, man. Like you talked about, man, I got to be better, but it'll be fine. The laundry will get done. The clothes will get picked up. You know, like you got to have discipline. You gotta have boundaries, which we talked about. Right. Yeah. But, gosh, it's hard because like, you can't just live a life where nothing matters. You know, you got to pay the bills. You got to do things, but just to allow those to overtake you or to cause you to react in a way that isn't necessary. For sure, man. Like you walk through something like that. It's just hard to let little things become big things, man.
And it's so, and I'll tell you, bigger than that for me is not wanting to just like shake people and be like, that doesn't matter.
Bro. But we didn't know any different before we walked. And so like, you got to give all the grace in the world too, because I thought that's all that mattered.
I agree.
I thought that's all, like, I mean, and so, but that's why some people might think, well, it looks like you just don't care about things. I care deeply about things, just not that thing.
Exactly.
You know, because it's just not, it's not life or death.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And that's huge, like life or death. Like that does not. One of the biggest things with us going through whenever we started with Kennedy was our geneticist at Cincinnati. My wife would hound her. So we had to drive to Cincinnati every week for a 6-hour infusion it was 8 weeks prior to us going into transplant. And that was a man-made enzyme to try and get some of that into her body to help supplement what was coming with the transplant later. So through this, every appointment, we're meeting with people and specialists, and, you know, they're giving us the pros and cons, and, you know, like, you still don't have to make this decision to go through transplant because the mortality rate is so high. And so my wife, every appointment, was hounding this geneticist, like wanting that answer that my daughter's going to be okay. My daughter is going to make it through this transplant. My daughter's going to live. And it's probably the best advice that we ever got in our life was, she said, I can't give you the answer you're looking for. Even if your daughter didn't have what she has, I can't give you the answer you're looking for, but treat her as if she is 100% normal and has no diagnosis, still discipline her, still everything. So I want to ask you, is that one thing that you still do as dad? Like, even though your kids have been through and you've been through the worst of worst, like, do you still do that, or do you give them a lot more grace than what?
That's good, man. No, that's a great question. One of the hardest things, and there's a million on the list of things that are hard when you lose your person, but one of the hardest things for me initially, and even today, is having to be bad cop. Rachel was bad cop. She let me be good cop. She let me be the hero. Yeah. She let me be just fun and and overnight I have to be the bad cop. Yeah. And I do have to say, pick up your room. I do have to say, get off the phone. I do have to, that's been hard, for me, because there's days I feel like that's all I am. Yeah. I don't even get to be a good cop, right? Agree, because I there's things that have to be done, and I feel like I'm just no. And so I miss being able to share that with someone and just having to
put the bad stuff off on them. Yeah,
man, or just share it at least. Right. And so, but there's gotta be boundaries. There's gotta be that healthy level of respect. And, and I think if I've done anything well, and a lot of it is because Rachel prepared us for this, is that. And the kids are so respectful, and they're so kind, and they love well, and they're so happy. I went to 2 of their teacher conferences. The third one didn't have one last year, and both teachers said, I've never met a happier kid. So, man, that feels awesome. Good. Yeah, that feels good. And it's not just happiness; it's joy. Happiness comes and go. Joy comes from him.
Exactly.
It ain't from me, right? Yeah. Like, joy comes from him, and that felt so good to know that they don't get away with stuff. They are disciplined. They are, but in love, in such a loving, the best I know how. No one can do it perfectly. Only he did. But there's just this mutual level of respect between us and me and them that we're doing all right. We're doing okay,
Do you feel like your kids give more grace? Do you feel like your kids have more of that, like what we talked about, like that doesn't matter kind of, from what they've been through? Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I have to be careful with that too, because Hadley was having a hard day at school with some friends. I was like, Daddy, it's so hard. I said, Hadley, that's not hard. Yeah. I said, you've been too hard. Yeah. I said, this, it stinks. It's, it's not fun, but she's like, oh, you're right, Daddy. It's not that hard, and it's like,
but that's a hard too, because you don't want to brush it off.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I have to be careful because that's hard for them. Teenage girl going through things with her friends, right? And so I do. And when I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Are we really, I don't want to say that, but it's like having that conversation. But very few things are really hard. They watch their mommy die.
Yes.
They watch their mommy die. Like, that's hard, And so I for sure think their perspectives are, but you nailed it. I can't be the one to brush things off that matter to them today, losing a football game, whatever it may be to them. It's hard that day, but, I think for sure, to answer your question, I think for sure their perspectives are hopefully, forever different through that loss. Man, it's a thing. Yeah. Doesn't matter that much.
That's awesome though. That especially the reports you got back from the teachers. And,
man.
That makes you like, we were great parents. We did instill it in them.
And there's the thing, you lose your person. There's always another first, I remember, the first puke without Rachel, that was hard. I remember, first boyfriend, that mommy's supposed to be here to walk through that, shaving the legs for the first time,
I seen that post.
I actually had some smooth legs that day. I did it with Hadley because I'd never done it. She'd never done it. So let's do it together. Daughter's going through periods, dads don't deal with that.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to that at all. Let's get,
until like Hadley, I knew it was to happen one day, and I needed Hadley not to think it was weird to talk to me about it. And so like we just normalized this conversation around this happening. And I think dads need to be prepared for some of these things. You know, mom might not be there, you know? And so
I think you opening that door when Rachel was going through
Sure.
everything and having the hard conversations. And I love this, what I heard on one podcast, and I don't remember exactly which one it was, but whenever the end was coming and you gave the kids the option to either go see mommy or not see mommy during that time, like, and let them grieve in their own. And I don't exactly remember the words that you said to them, so I don't want to mess it up, but giving them that space to be able to do their own thing and make their own choices of how they want to grieve, with obviously guiding them, because you've never been through it. And I know anytime that I've went through something hard, having my kids there by my side made me stronger to go through it. So I'm sure it was hard for a couple of them. I think chose not to go to the hospital and see her anymore. But man, that was so powerful to hear that you gave them the option rather than, no, you need to go because of what's about to happen. Like,
I wanted them to remember mommy for whatever they needed.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't what I needed or what even Rachel needed at that point. It was what they needed. Yeah. And again, did we do it perfectly? I don't know, man. No. I don't know that we did, but I do remember that, and I'm glad that we gave them the option. And they still talk about that. And you know, one of them wishes she would have gone more. Yeah. She wishes she would have gone more, but she said, I just hated the smell. Yeah. I hated the smell of the hospital, and I just didn't want to be in. It's great. You know, that's okay.
That's the way Kennedy is. Anytime we walk into, like, even if we're just going to visit a friend, or and you know, obviously it's the trigger for PTSD. Her, that smell of the hospital and just the hallways and all that. But yeah, I think you having those hard conversations earlier on, and then now coming to present day, of making the talks with the daughter about what's about to happen to her body and shaving the legs. And
dude, I had to read all the books and all I had no idea. I mean, I knew Rachel had them and mom had them and everybody has them. Like, we all have, all the women have them, but you know, just to be able to make it not weird, you know, for her, because like, I got to do it with you, man. And it happened on Father's Day. Believe it or not, the gift that keeps on giving, you know. But I remember it how she said, Daddy, like, she was excited to come tell me, like, because we knew that it was getting to that point, and you know, it could have been really weird for her, and maybe it is. Maybe one day she'll like, Daddy, that was so weird that I had to do this with you and I had to experience this with you, but we did it. We walked through it and we figured it out, and again, just man, last Friday, Cooper had a state dance competition. And her and her mommy danced, man. Rachel was a pro dancer. That's what she did. You know, she danced in college. She danced after college. Like, that's what she did. And she was so good, so talented. And having to walk through, this was like Cooper's real first competition. Having to walk through that without mom, I know was hard for her. Yeah. And watching her get ready all alone, doing her hair all alone, doing her makeup, doing her eyes, doing all the things alone. I was brought back to like, man, it's not supposed to look like this. Yeah, exactly. You know, like, kids are supposed to have their mom. Kids are supposed to have their dad. Parents are supposed to have their kids, you know? Exactly. And so there's still those days that just hit, man. Like, dang. Yeah. I'm sorry. We got to do this without Rachel. But
and so how do you turn from not getting angry, especially on aspects like that? Because I could see myself just, you know, not flying off the handle, but almost having that thought of, like, why? God? Why?
It's not anger, it's just sadness. And I think that's okay. Yeah. You know, it's okay to not be okay some days. And it's also okay to be okay. Yes. You know, you can look at both sides of that. But I wasn't okay. That day was hard for me. Yeah. And not that I needed Rachel on my side. By my side, I needed Rachel there for Coop, you know, but she was there. She was there in one way, shape, or form. But I just felt bad that then there's been many days I felt bad they didn't have their mommy. Girls need their mommy. Exactly. So do boys. Yeah. But you know, girls need their mommy, and I can do a lot of good things as a dad, but there's certain things that moms just do better. And I'm not good with hair, I'm not good with makeup, I'm not good with a lot of things, and so it's sadness, not anger anymore. Yeah. You know, it's just sad, and I think that'll always be the case. You know, if it doesn't sting, I hope when I die it stings a little bit for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I always say
not just
that.
initially.
No, I mean Rachel deserves this thing.
Yeah.
Our people deserve this thing, and I hope it better sting forever.
Yeah.
She deserves that. Not all the time, because again, it's okay to be okay, and all she wanted was for us to be okay. But there's days it stings for sure.
I agree. Whenever you get down or you have bad days, obviously you have to be the rock for your kids. How do you cope with those bad days? How do you continue to deal with them?
Yeah, man. I don't even know that I don't know that I have bad days anymore. I have my bad moments. My closet's my hiding space that I go and I cry still sometimes. I found therapy through writing. It's all right. Like that's where I feel like I can release the things I need to release. But to your point, I'm also navigating through other people's days, know, and they're hard and their struggle and their, missing mommy or whatever it may be. And so I remember, it was probably a year of just navigating everybody else's till I got to navigate mine, I remember just sitting with everyone else's space and just, I remember one day just bawling on my closet floor because I finally felt like I got to just
let it go,
man. But also like we grieved Rachel and I grieved losing her for months. We got to grieve it and cry it out. And it's interesting because like when she died, like, not that I was immediately okay, but I was okay.
Yeah.
Because like I was given permission to be okay by Rach. And I remember some people thinking, man, he's okay too quick. I'm like, no, there's no too quick, there's no, and you don't know what all's going on, like there's a lot of hurt and a lot of heart and but also like I had to put on a face too for my kids, and we had to do life, man.
And that's a big story too. Like you say that people looked from the outside seeing that, oh, he's okay. Like you never know what somebody's going through, man. That's why whenever I walk down the street, if I'm in a mall, like anybody I pass, I try to make eye contact with them. Like, hey, how you doing? Or, hey buddy, or, make some kind of comment to let somebody know that they have my full face, just like what you said earlier. Like
there's no blueprint to grief, man. There's no blueprint to, timeline, and like I said, you're never going to be like, there's always going to be this hole. There's always going to be this gap. There's always going to be a piece missing in these kids' lives and in my life and our friends' lives. But again, like I can't imagine a person that passes on not wanting their people to be okay.
Yeah.
And I got permission to be, and I'm so grateful for that. Like we, one of the last few nights Rachel was really with it, we got to have a final date in the hospital. And she had written in her phone, 8 things that she wanted from me, that she wanted to discuss with me, before she died. And she was kind of in and out of consciousness at the time, but I don't know when she wrote these things down in her note. It could have been a year ago. I have no idea. Yeah. So she had me read them to her. And I can't recall all 8, but one of them was just, you need to be good. You need to be okay. You need to be okay moving on. Yeah. Finding love again, and true Rachel fashion is like, not tomorrow. That's weird. Not 2 weeks from now. That's weird. But like, you have permission to be okay and to be happy and to, for anyone from the outside to look in and say, well, he shouldn't be okay, or he should. All Rachel wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
And, and if you have lost somebody suddenly, that's all they want.
Yeah.
They didn't get to tell you that, but they just want you to be okay.
How selfless does that take somebody to be,
Bro.
I know some people would be like, you are never, ever again. And
isn't that the truth, bro?
But man, for her to just want your true happiness and for you to live a life being joyful and instead of, no, you're never again when that happens.
She would say you have so much more life left to live, so much love to give, like, and you deserve that. The kids deserve that, choose wisely.
Yeah.
Choose wisely.
Exactly.
What
was the graphic I seen the other day? Something about choose the woman that you want your daughter to be whenever
man.
she grows up.
And that the truth,
I was like,
man.
wow, that is, because we look right now
Sure.
at, what we see on the outside rather than, like looking years down the road. And that's just 100% Jesus coming out in her to be that selfless, like.
I don't know that I'd have been that way, man.
Yeah, me either.
I don't know that I could have fathomed. I know she would have moved on. I get that, but I don't know that I could have fathomed in that position being like, you're good. Go be with another man.
Yeah, me either. I don't know that I could say those words.
I know, man.
Because I want my kids, if something, God, happens to me, then I want my kids to have that male figure in their life to be, because I truly believe, and I don't want to go off on no rabbit hole or anything, but that's what's wrong with our society today is not, and that's the meaning for the dad show, is to have present dads, loving dads, caring dads, and in the home, man. I feel like that, and my kids, your kids, everybody's kids needs that male role model. My dad was present. He coached our ball teams, but he was going all the time working.
Yeah.
And he was a lineman here at the local utility board, and so overtime came, he would take it, and I find myself doing those same things, but I had my grandfather who was retired, and he lived right next door, and that's who I clung to. And yes, he's my grandfather, but he's almost like my second dad, because that was my male role model, and we need that in the home. I think it could cure so many things, man. If just have present dads in the home. So I appreciate 100% what you're doing, because it could easily, somebody in your position, like turn to substance, turn to other stuff, run away, not want to continue on being the dad that you're being. And you've said multiple times that, did you do it 100% correct? Did you all make the correct decisions? And everything that I've seen, everything that I've heard, man, I can say you may not have made it 100%, but you've done it the way God wanted it to be done. And man, I appreciate 100% everything that you've done and continue to do. And I'm very inspired by that.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Same to you, man. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I think you're right. This matters. Allowing dads to sit here and be vulnerable and talk about the hard and talk about the struggle and talk about the real. We don't do that on the golf course. No. We don't do that, over a football game. And so to create an avenue where it's okay to just talk about the hard, man. It's important, and it's lacking. It's lacking. So good for you to give people an avenue to do it, to listen to it, to chat about it. So I'm rooting you on, man. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. If there's any advice that you had, and I know you're a member of quite a few groups of widowers and stuff of that nature, if there's any advice that you had to give to any listener that may be out there listening that needs that extra assurance, that extra help of where to turn, whether they're going through something similar to what you've been through, or they've already went through it, do you have any advice that you just want to give them?
Man, turn to Him.
Amen.
I know that's cliche, but also I think accept help. I had a hard time allowing people to help. I thought I could do it all because we're men, man. We don't need help.
Exactly.
I don't need help. But love shows up for people, and if people want to show up for you, let them show up.
Yeah.
That's what love does. That's what Rachel was a professional at, was showing up. She was she walked in love, and all of us, like you said early on, all of us are going through a hard, or just went through a hard, or coming up on a hard, and to allow people to hold the space with you and show up for you. It's not unmanly.
Yeah.
To let someone show up and love you. It's not unmanly to let someone take something off your chest. It's not unmanly to sit there and allow someone to just show up and cry with you. That's not unmanly. I think culture may disagree with that, but it's sad. That's not the case. So I think just allowing people in to love you.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. That's one thing that going through what we went through, we never asked one person to hold a fundraiser for us. We never asked one person to do basically anything for us. People would message, say, hey, what do you need? What can you do? And, you know, when you're going through that, man, that's the hardest questions to answer, you know, like I'm going crazy. I don't know what I need, you know,
all the things.
And so man, I want to just give people the gumption, whatever you want to call it, that if you feel led to do something for somebody, just do it,
bro.
Because when you're going through these, like, you can't give those answers.
That's the name of the book. That is the name of the book, because that's a big part of it. I got so many. What can I do? I have no idea, man. Yeah. I don't know. Love just does. Exactly. It just shows up. Yeah. If that's coming to walk your dog, that's a thing. If that's helping with the kids to get them to school, that's a thing. If it's dropping off a meal, that's a thing. If you don't know how to cook and you want to send an Uber Eats gift card, that's a thing. Don't ask what you can do, just do. Just do it. You know, but do not looking for something in return. Yeah. Do not even looking for a thank you. This isn't about you, the doer, right? Love just does. And that's what, again, Rachel was so good at. And that's why I remember we named the book that way, because she said that. She's like, you just do. That's what you do. You show up and you love. And again, no one will do that perfectly. But stop asking what you can do, because we don't know. Yeah, exactly. Just do it. Just do it. So that's a good point. Let's bring up the book real quick. You wrote a book, Just Do. Yep. And where can people go find that at? Yeah, man, it's on Amazon. Brandon Janous. I'm the only Brandon Janous there is, so it's not hard to find. It might be on my Instagram. I'm not sure, but you know, this is not a plug to buy the book. I just give you the book. If you message me, I'll give you the book. I'm not trying to sell books anymore. But if you want to support, if you want to support and give me my $3 from Amazon, that's great. But man, that was a fun project, man. It talks a lot about the RV stage, because I had started writing when we lived in the RV. That's when I got excited about writing these stories down that I was learning from being present. You know, if you just sit there and you watch your kids and the things you learn from them, there's a ton of fun stories about just being dad, man, and all the lessons I learned that year. And then it gets into Rachel, getting sick and walking that walk, and a little bit about the aftermath, because I finished it after she died. But it's a fun read. It's not, there's some hard, there's the last date is in there. I wrote about the 8 things that she wanted from me. And that was something I had never talked about till the book. And I remember writing that chapter, just bawling, bro. Yeah. But it became my therapy, and I loved the project. I loved doing it. So yeah, grab a copy, message me if you want. I'll send you a free one, whatever. It's just a fun read if you want to know more. So, going through one last question before we close, and it's kind of a 2-parter, because I want to say it goes together in the aspect in your story. You've been through this with Rachel. You've been through marriage. You've been through the cancer diagnosis, the hospital journey, the passing away, all that. And you just mentioned, and I didn't know this, so this question just came to me whenever we started this podcast, that you are starting to date again. Yeah. So now that you're starting into a relationship again, what changes? What did you learn? Or what did that whole journey teach you to want to do today, and go along with that? Yeah. What did you learn from your journey that you want to ask husbands or wives to put into their marriage and their relationship today? Yeah, man, that's a good question. So I've dated a couple people since Rachel died. I'm not going to get into specifics, but you have to find a person that's going to allow you to love 2 people. Yeah. Because I'm always going to love Rachel. Yeah. And so to find a person that will come in here and love Rachel alongside you, and not feel like they're competing. Yes. Not feel like Rachel's coming back. Yeah. Not feel like Rachel's up here, so I can't be there. There's not a compare. Rachel's cheering you on, man. Yeah. Rachel is your number 1 fan. She wants you to be great. Yes. And so that's important. Finding someone that will love those kids, man. Like when you're dating as a single dude, it's just me. You just gotta love me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but to have someone come in and love those kids and make space for their mommy and talk about their mommy and
not try to replace,
bro. Dude, that's not, I'm not trying to replace her, nor should she be trying to replace her. You know, like that's not what we're doing here. There's no replacing.
Yes.
It's honestly, it's coming in and picking up the torch Rachel lit and just carrying it.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. It's not, you didn't ask this question, but I found someone that also lost their spouse in a car accident. And so is able to hold such an incredible space for Rach, and I'm able to for her and her late husband. And we're able to just share stories and talk about the good and the bad and the hard and the struggle and the happy and all the things that come along with marriage and
healing together.
Healing together. And the space that she's been able to come in and hold for my kids, man. Cooper, share a quick story. My parents had their 50th wedding anniversary not too long ago, and my girlfriend came out for it. She doesn't live here, but she came out for it. And a song came on that Cooper and Rachel danced to. It's on my Instagram. I think at the top of it that it was Rachel's last dance. It was January 16th, I think, right before we went to the hospital. We were at family dinner and a song came on, and Cooper and Rachel had done a choreography to it. And so they're dancing. And we all knew, like, Rachel, this might be the last time Rachel dances. And that brought her so much joy. And she and Cooper did this dance for, I think it was 2 minutes and 13 seconds or something like that. And knowing the pain Rachel was in, knowing every time she moved, it was her head throbbing, her back hurting. But she gave her these 2 minutes and 13 seconds of just being present, you know, and all of us, there was probably 20 of us there, were just zoned in on, like, man, this is a big deal.
Yes.
And that song came on at my parents' anniversary party, and everybody that was there knew of that song, right? And so Cooper goes and does the dance by herself. And it was really cool, and everybody was cheering her on. It was fun. And but we got home that night, and Cooper's not my emotional one. Cooper knows mommy's in heaven, and she's good with that. That's enough for her. Yeah. But she started bawling, and she said, man, Daddy, like, that was so hard to do without mommy. So hard to do without mommy. And I held some space with her for a minute, and then I went downstairs because I was entertaining other people, and Kim, my girlfriend, went into the room with Cooper, and she was gone for an hour and just laid with her and cried with her. Wow. And apologized that her mommy wasn't here, and said, I'm sorry, I can't be your mommy, but I'm here, and just held the space with her and hugged her and cried with her. And it was this whole thing. And the next day, Cooper sent, she called her Miss Kim, a message and said, I'm really sorry my mommy's not here. And I'm really sorry Mr. Ryan, who's her late husband, isn't here with you. But I wouldn't trade you being here for anything in the world.
Wow.
Thank you for crying with me. Thank you for loving me. And I was like, man, that's a big deal.
She's carrying the torch.
Dude, she's carrying the torch. That's it. She's carrying the torch. And so, like, that moment for me was like, man, I don't know where this ends. I know that someone has come in here and held such a beautiful space. And I was talking to Kim about this the other night, in a really tough season, teenage girls, man, you know, and to be able to come in and walk that walk with them, and they're so comfortable. And that's a whole nother podcast, but we don't need to get into dating life, but that's been so, for the first time since Rachel died, I feel like I have a partner to equally do things with. Like, she just shows up so well, not just for me, but for the kids. And to think Rachel's not cheering her on and saying, yes. Yeah. Yes. You know, like,
that's beautiful.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I never planned to date at 44 years old. That wasn't my plan. You know, that's not how I scripted this, you know, but to find someone, because I have a lot of life left to live, a lot of love left to give.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I deserve her, but my kids do.
Yes.
You know.
And perfectly placed.
Yeah, man.
Whether it goes further,
Sure.
For right now and this season,
man,
it's God's plan.
Yeah, that's
100%.
exactly right, man. It's no accident, and we feel like Rach and Ryan are rooting us on like crazy up there, and it feels good. It feels good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know what
dude.
the second part was, but
what do you recommend from going through what you've been through? What advice would you give husbands or wives right now to be sure they nurture their marriage?
Yeah, man.
Like I always say, your car, you take it in for maintenance, you get an oil change.
Yeah, man.
If you don't do the same with your marriage, the engine's gonna break down, and it's gonna, what is it right now? Like 52% divorce rate of getting married. So you're already in negative odds whenever you say I do. And so going through your journey, what is one thing that you recommend spouses to do to be sure they check in their marriage, they nurture their marriage, they build it up and make it stronger? Yeah,
that's so good, man. Prioritizing one another. You said it, dude. Like, it takes maintenance.
Yes.
I wasn't, Rachel and I were not perfect, far from it. But kids can be a distraction.
Yeah.
In such a beautiful way, but like they can be. And so to make sure you are focused on the main thing, whether that's a weekend away every once in a while, whether that's just a night out, just the two of you, and maybe don't talk about the kids. Try that, dude. Like, man, I mean, because they dominate our lives, which is great, but to just go and just be, I mean, man, I remember Rachel and I had a trip to Costa Rica for a wedding, and we hadn't had a trip in so long because kids just dominate. The schedules are hard, and just falling in love all over again, man. You just realize, man, this is what
exactly
we fell for, right? And so, and so then every year after that, we'd make sure at least twice a year we'd do a trip together because that was important. But not easier than that, but something to do on a daily basis is just notice, man.
Yeah,
just become a noticer. That's
huge.
Like, on both sides, man. Like, there's so many balls that would be dropped if one of them disappeared, and so just.
Well, it's what you said earlier, like you don't notice the dishes not being done. You don't notice the laundry. So whenever you say thank you for doing the dishes, thank you for cooking dinner, thank you for making my haircut appointment, like those little things, people are going to remember that,
dude.
And
it's
so it's going
easy to take for granted, man.
It's hard to say that somebody's going to do the laundry even better, but it's with you showing thankfulness and being
she did
grateful.
The laundry a lot better. I will tell you that, dude. That's the truth. But you're right. Like just acknowledging it, man.
Yeah.
Acknowledging it because we it's just expected to be done, right? I mean, a little thing like my dad, my mom has never pumped gas in her life.
That's why my grandmother
to this day.
Yeah.
To this day. Like no clue, wouldn't have any idea. My dad just makes sure those things are done.
Yeah.
And if something were ever to happen to my dad, I'm gonna be pumping gas.
Well, I think my wife has taken that to heart because every time I get in her car, it's on knees.
Yeah, but I mean, good for her, and my mom has never opened her own door. My dad's opened every door for her,
That's awesome.
And it's just
we got to get your dad,
dude,
on here,
until
man.
she will stand at the door and wait. Like she will wait for someone to open that dang door, and she's not a princess, but man, he sure treated her like one, and so like, and my mom takes such good care of him, in the same ways, right? And so, I like to think I did the best I could with Rach. Again, failed miserably, but I'm a better human. I'm a better boyfriend. I'm a better dad. I'm a better coworker because of what I learned walking the walk with Rach, But I would just tell you, just notice, man. Just be a better noticer because, man, you don't know what you got until it's gone.
And cherish everything that you got. Like, that was one of the biggest things with our kids was learning to live every day like it's your last. And I still, like you said, I still fail at that every day. I still get distracted. I still get deceived. But you got to remember, like, I can't remember exactly what it was with my wife, but she was so frustrated at something my daughter had done or something. Maybe she smarted off to her or something. I'm like, be thankful that she's here to do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it could be so much worse. And that, that's an easy, not a cop out, but that's an easy statement to make. But man, whenever you put it into your life and you try to live every day like it's your last, like you said, if I'm on my phone and my son walks up or my daughter walks up, I don't just continue here and trying to keep the conversation with them. No, I try to, it may be a second, it may take me 30 seconds. I need to finish that text, that email.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. What do you need? Like you said, bring your full
whole face, man. But if it's going to be 30 seconds, tell them it's going to be 30 seconds. If it's going to be 5 minutes, tell them it's going to be 5 minutes, because again, what they don't understand, it'll be just a little bit. It'll be just a minute turns into 30. Yeah. Like, hey, I need 5 minutes. Hey, I'll set an alarm for 5 minutes, and then make it 5 minutes, right? Yeah. Again, there you go. Perfect. But that's something that I've had to do too, because I do have to work. I do have to do things, right? But when Macklin wants to go throw the football and I need 3 more minutes, Macklin, give me 3 more minutes, I'll be there, and really sticking to that, to your word. Because then the 5 minutes throwing the football with him is an eternity.
Exactly.
And it's more important than anything in the world.
Anything in the world.
Yeah, man.
You're not going to remember the business meeting you make.
No.
But you're going to remember that time whenever your son threw the perfect spiral and you're like, great job.
Man. That's it.
Brandon, I just want to thank you for being here today, man, for sharing your story, your testimony about your kids, being a dad, Rachel,
thank you, brother.
Your life now. I can't express from my heart enough just how thankful I am.
Thank you.
Thank you
for what you're doing. Let's get dad on. Let's get granddad on. Let's go do this.
Let's do it. I would love to, man. That would be an awesome podcast to have us all sitting there. If our audience wants to go and connect with you more, is there somewhere that they can find you at?
Instagram, Facebook is probably easiest. It's Brandon Janous, Janous. So there's only one of me. There are some imposters out there, but I think I might have a blue check. So I'm the only one with the blue check. But yeah, just that's where I share a lot of my stories. I'm not as active as I once was because it's a distraction.
Exactly.
I get people telling me all the time, I wish you would post more. And I just I try to keep it to a minimum. So
what really matters.
Yeah, it's exactly right, man.
Yeah. So
thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. If y'all want to go follow along with Brandon, you know where to find him at. I ask that you follow all Dad Show social media at the Dad Show Podcast. As always, I want to thank you for being with us. We love you. We care about you. And we're proud of you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show Podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.